Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
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 Excellent.
Okay.
So, greetings of peace. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
We would like to welcome you all to this Saturday afternoon's insightful dialogue series that we have every week. I hope that you're all feeling great and ready to learn about understanding transformation. It is always better to understand something rather than just to impose on ourselves, any form of imposition, for the changes and the transformations that we want to see in ourselves. But we shall have our special guest speaker to share her insight on this topic. Um, Soni Sayana. She is our guest speaker in this afternoon. And just as a brief introduction, she has received her BS in electrical engineering, her master's in engineering, and she has had a quite a lengthy career, a 17-year career at the Fidelity Investment in Boston as the VP of the Global Network Engineering. And in 2013, what happened was that she decided to take a break from the corporate world and focus her attention on her home life and on her family and her children. And in her so-called retired phase, what happened was that she began to pursue her passion in the field of mindfulness with the focus on meditation. She has been a student of Raja Yoga meditation, since 2011. Um, I would say now, like for around 10 years now. And while a student, she also began sharing, and still shares how practically she was able to implement the meditation practices in her daily life in order to experience and to maintain not only peace but also happiness. They come together, peace and happiness. And then pre-COVID, of course, Sony, she held meditation sessions in senior centers, the community senior centers, and also in the women's state prison outside Boston. And also she is a part of the Shine Bright workshops, which focuses on mindfulness classes in the elementary school as well as the middle school. So these are all the bit of introduction about her, professionally. But to me, she is an example of dedication, commitment, authenticity, love, and deep care for a better world of um, peace and happiness. So let us welcome Soni to the spotlight. And I would like to ask everyone to remain muted. If you do have any questions, you feel free to ask your questions, unmute yourself, but remute yourself so there won't be any background noise that causing any disturbances for the other participants. And I would like to thank everyone for being here, and thank you, Soni, for being with us. So here you are. And now, our dear Soni Sayana.
Thank you so much for that, Sister Lisa. And Good afternoon and good evening to everyone, and welcome to the session. I was asked to talk about understanding transformation, which will be the topic this evening. But to add to what was already shared, the 10 years of Raj Yoga meditation that we practice here at the Brahma Kumaris, it has been itself so transformational. This 10 years that I've been doing it, it's been a constant, learning, never a dull moment, constant learning, discovering, and uncovering so many facets about, this whole practice of meditation. And been able to use it, and practically it was just what's most important to me, to be able to take this information and use it in my day-to-day life. And in my day-to-day, I do have two high school teenagers, and they also keep it very interesting, always lots of learning and discovering and uncovering with them as well. And I have a husband. I've been together 32 years. Not so much discovering over there, since after 32 years together, you become each other. You don't know where, the boys say, don't know where mom begins and dad ends. So maybe we've transformed each other. But I think this whole journey of transformation is, and as Lisa was saying, you have to understand it. And it's when you understand it that the transformation can happen in our lives. And that's something that I wanted to share with you all this evening. So I do have some slides, and I would like to say that if there's any questions, by all means, you can ask throughout the presentation. I'm an engineer. I don't have any kind of a degree in mindfulness and meditation. So everything I share is from my own experience. So by all means, ask, and I might even just log it off to people more experienced, like Sister Lisa, to jump in and answer. So I will share. But before I go into the actual presentation, I'd like to do a mini meditation. You guys can all see my slides? Yes? Okay, perfect. So I want us to have a space that we can create. So I just want us to relax and bring our mind here by first taking 2 deep breaths. So breathe in and out, and in again and out. Turn your attention to your mind, letting your body just relax. Putting aside the to-do list, things you have to do will still be there an hour from now. So put those aside. Allow your mind to be present. Creating some space within. Feel it like a sponge, just ready to take in new information, new knowledge, new experience with no effort. Give yourself this gift of time by being fully present. Om Shanti. So this session is about transformation. And when I was thinking of how to start it off, I thought the best place to start would be at a definition of what transformation is about. And there were two different definitions out there for transformation. One is a thorough or dramatic change in form or appearance. And the second definition that I liked was metamorphosis during the life cycle of an animal. So these are the two definitions that I'd like to use and have them work together as we understand a transformation. So the first definition of transformation, a thorough dramatic change in form or appearance, the images that came to mind were more along self-transformation. So if we look at this image here of someone who is, not doing so good in life, and then we see that transformation of victory, complete change in the situation. So that to me is, transformation in that person's life. Same thing here with, one's health. When we don't have health, we don't feel, as in our power. But when we are, in our full capacity, then we have this ability to deal, and we have taken charge of our life. And that's transformation. And when we have and experience loneliness or depression, we are not able to enjoy anything that life has to offer. And the flip side of that is really being able to take everything, happiness, and experience deep contentment. And that is that transformation. So to get to these end states is, what we need to understand is how to transform, big parts of our lives, little parts of our lives, to get to this end state of being able to be happy and peaceful and live life like it's meant to be lived. So the second definition of transformation that I liked was a metamorphosis during the life cycle of an animal. And when I was thinking of the visual of the life cycle of an animal, the one that came to mind was that of a butterfly, because there's such a great transformation that takes place in this 4-stage life cycle that I thought it could be something, that we could look at and really weave into understanding our own self-transformation. So maybe at the end of the presentation, you'd know you'd know more about butterflies than you ever intended to, but no good knowledge killed anyone. So this is fine, right? So looking at the first stage of the egg in this whole life cycle of a caterpillar, of the butterfly rather, what's interesting is it's got, characteristics on the outside. So the outside, there's different dimensions to the size of the egg, there's different surfaces, and the colors can all be very varied. But what's interesting is what's inside is every single one of those would have the same yolk. So this is that first stage of that whole transformation of this butterfly is the egg. So if we look at our own self in that same way of this awareness that we have, which was very new for me because coming, with my background and my, education, everything was about the external. Everything was about understanding and identifying and being familiar with this body. And that was what made sense coming from, this education where everything was an engineer, you touch and feel and, it makes sense. But what I was exposed to with this practice of Raj Yoga meditation with the Brahma Kumaris is, we are something much deeper than just this outside costume, if you will. And this is what was something that was very new for me, this awareness that there is something more than just this body, and there is this inner being, this being that is energy, and we are all, the same. We all have this within us, and together, this human and the being is what is our full package. So that was a big aha for me. And it was also a what? Because, it was hard to identify with this energy that you can't see, you can't touch, you can't, feel. And so to be able to wrap my head around, this other piece was difficult. Because we all, most of us, operate at this level of the external body and very familiar with it and know how to take care of it. And so there was a bit of resistance to actually, embrace and understand, or want to understand this part. And the other part that I said, not only was my education, some of those blocks, but also the way I grew up, coming from a family that was very scientific, also made it a little challenging to grapple with this inner being. And the reason I wanted to share that the way I was brought up is because I am also teaching right now a meditation class at my undergraduate university at RIT. And so I poll the students, it's all here online and Zoom. So I poll the students that, when I'm sharing with them that we're actually two pieces, an outer, body and an inner being, can they relate to that? And 50%, which is of the 34 students, a pretty significant amount, 50% said yes, they are familiar with this inner being, which, in Brahma Kumaris, we call it, the soul. So it wasn't an unusual concept for them. And 50% that said yes, they said, they come from a faith. They come from a faith-based upbringing. And so this wasn't a big leap for them to understand that, they are a soul. So that was interesting because, it wasn't easy for me because of those, just the way I was raised. But understanding that the qualities of this inner being, that we, have this within us, this love, peace, happiness, power, and purity, these qualities is what made it attractive for me. It was really fascinating that, wow, so, this is who I am, then that's something that I want to explore, because I wasn't experiencing any of this operating with just half the knowledge of who I was, which was this body. And so understanding that these qualities are there within me made it something that I wanted to explore, because when we operate from the body, we're taking in information with our senses. And these senses, it's, the sight, the sound, all those contribute to some of the vices that grip us. And some of those vices are like anger and, greed. All those come from operating at what we call in Brahma Kumaris a body conscious awareness. And so the shift here is to be able to see ourselves as these inner beings, as souls, and shift to a soul conscious awareness. But to do that, it's not easy, especially if you're so used to thinking differently, haven't been raised that way. And, I'll share with you a story. When I was, still working at Fidelity, I came home one day, and my youngest son, he was in second grade at the time, and he came home and he goes, "Mom, do we celebrate Kwanzaa?" And it was February at that time. And I was like, no, we are Indian. We celebrate Diwali. I was like, why? He goes, well, the kids at school are saying that I'm African American and that I should celebrate Kwanzaa. And I think that was his first experience to being aware that he was of a different color than the rest of the students in his class, who were mostly Caucasian. And so he felt uncomfortable. You know, it was a feeling that made him kind of aware and didn't feel like he belonged in the class. So I called the teacher and I said, you know, I'd like to come in and, you know, just talk about, my son's heritage and where we're from, and kind of, you know, equalize, you know, what he was feeling and take away some of those, uncomfortable feeling of, you know, the race part of it. So I was like, how do I explain to second graders, you know, the whole concept of being the same? So what I did was I took in with me, and you can see them clearly, but there's two eggs, a brown egg and a white egg. So I was like, this is a good place to start with second graders, with first graders, actually, with first graders. So I go in and I do a whole spiel about, you know, where India is. And then I was like, you know, let's talk about these eggs, and kind of like how we're talking about the egg with a butterfly. And so I said, you know, how are they on the outside? They said they're different. And I said, how are they on the inside? Like, well, they both have the same yolk. So they totally got it. I said, just like that. We are all, you know, different on the outside, but same on the inside. And they got it. And I was like, wow, here are these, you know, first graders that are totally getting this concept. And I've just, you know, equalized the whole classroom with and changed their lives with this understanding that they get it. They get it, that we're all the same. And so I was getting ready to leave and catch my train, feeling so full of accomplishment and proud of myself. And then this little kid comes over and he goes, I have a question. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he goes, so is that an Indian egg? And I was like, you know, he totally missed it. And I had to catch my train, so I just left. But, you know, this is how that understanding of the body. So not only did he, you know, not, relate the whole inside being the same, but he took the outside to a whole nother level of not just brown, but being an Indian egg. So I thought that was just fascinating. And now that I reflect on it, you know, it just shows how steep and seeped we are in this awareness of this body, and how we see each other immediately, you know, with that first impression of the body, and how much the world operates at that level. And when they operate at that level, there's so much of, you know, what we're seeing right now in the world. There's discrimination, there's hatred, you know, all this stuff that's out there is because of this awareness of the body. And to be able to live in a world where we operate from this, the inner being, where we see each other, you know, in the same light, you know, imagine that. It's almost reminds me of the song, or John Lennon's song, you know, imagine a world where we all live in peace and we have this brotherhood of man. But, you know, I say that's possible. That's possible when we operate from a soul conscious perspective, and we're not operating where we're making those judgments right away about how we look, and immediately have, preconceived notions about people. So this whole awareness and shifting to this soul conscious awareness, for me, has been the basis and foundation for transformation. And if I'm reflecting on my past 10 years, I can say 100% my peace, my happiness, my contentment has only increased year after year with this practice. And the rest of the world, you know, over the past 10, 20 years has seen more, you know, stress, anxiety, sorrow in the world. And this foundation has really been, for me, the grounding to see this change in my life. And so being able to build this platform of your inner, stage being, like a physical stage that is built on, a solid foundation. If we can all build our internal stage, with this foundation of these qualities of who we are, and then act, when we're acting on that stage, act with this as your platform, then you're coming from a place of positivity, and that's when you can see, transformation happen in our life. So to be able to tap into this is where the Raj Yoga meditation comes into play, and what has really been, key for me to be able to experience this inner being. So I want us to do a little bit of meditation again to see if we can tap into that. And then once we're done with meditation, just 2 minutes, I'll open it up and ask if anyone has any questions about this stage one. So we'll do a quick meditation. So the Raj Yoga meditation, another thing that makes it different from other yogas is we do with our eyes open, and that takes practice as well. And the whole premise is that, we want to live our life in a form of meditation, almost in this form of being peaceful all the time. But at this point, do whatever is comfortable for you. So just sit back and relax. And keep your back straight and your head just lined with your back, feet on the ground if that's possible. And turn your mind again inward. Putting aside all the roles you have to play, the role associated with your body, that of a parent, a caregiver, a provider, putting that role aside. And seeing yourself in a new way. Turning your attention inward and seeing yourself as this inner being of energy. This inner being that is peace. This inner being that is love. This inner being which is happiness. This is my true identity. I allow that feeling of peace surround my mind. And allow the energy to go through every part of my body. Bringing myself to the awareness that I am a being of peace. So that is a very tiny meditation, which, it might not have been easy for you to tap into that peace, but with experience, that becomes a very easy thing to do, to be able to go within and see that inner being and touch that and experience it. And once you experience it, you know, that's when the awareness becomes, you know, your reality. But without that experience, it becomes just a concept. And that's why whatever we share here, the Brahma Kumaris, you know, we share it with the hope that you can take advantage of going deeper into this experience of meditation, to tap into this foundation, which will become, you know, the foundation for transformation. So I'll pause there and see if anyone has any questions about this whole first stage of awareness of your inner being. You can either unmute or put your questions in the chat box, either way. Okay, if not, then you are good. So you must have had, you know, a strong foundation of faith where this is not a difficult concept for you to grasp, which is fantastic. So understanding transformation, for me, that was the first stage of really wrapping my head around that. The second stage that, you know, in this transformation process that I'm going to talk about is this caterpillar stage. So this caterpillar stage, which is a very interesting stage, is a time when this caterpillar becomes an eating machine because it has to consume a lot and really increase its body mass. It also sheds its skin multiple times, which is called molting. And it is the longest stage in this whole life cycle of this butterfly. And also it has a very high mortality rate, lots of disease and predators and parasites. So what maps to that caterpillar phase that we have to look at is the self-analysis. So we also have to look at what we're consuming, just like that caterpillar, and what we need to shed and molt in our life to allow transformation to occur. So in the shed, we have to really do that inside work of looking at the company that we keep. Sometimes the company that we keep may not be the best company for us. And it could even be, you know, our friends, which makes it difficult because friends are ones that we have taken so much of time to invested in the friendship and made lots of effort. But sometimes if a friendship is not helping you on your path, then you have to be able to ask yourself the difficult questions and be able to, you know, have yourself surrounded by those that are supportive of whatever change you're trying to make in your life. Because sometimes, you know, someone who's known you for a long time might see it as very frightening and might discourage you from trying something and transforming yourself in a way. So you have to do that analysis for yourself as to, you know, the company that you keep and see if it's the right company for you. The other thing is digital obesity that I call, this is the social media. So my boys say that I'm like Patrick Star from SpongeBob who lives under a rock because I'm not on any kind of social media. And so I choose not to be. And so, but I've heard enough experiences, and even from the students that I teach at RIT, that, you know, 70% of them said that they don't feel happy when they go on social media. So they don't like what they see. They see a lot of negativity, but yet they can't step away from it because for them, it's a way of connection. They see good side to it too. It's for them to, you know, be in touch with their friends and see, you know, good things that are happening, you know, around the world. So what I asked is for them to come up with a balance on how they are able to maintain their inner stage of optimism and positivity and all those things that make up our inner being. You know, how do they do that? And so they came up with a list of things that, you know, they could use to help themselves, like, you know, set limits on what they're doing when they're on Instagram or Facebook, or, you know, or and even, you know, do it when they're done with school. So they came up with these ways of protecting themselves, you know, from too much of their addictions, that they did see them as being addictions, with social media. Something for us to also check ourselves is, what am I looking at that is shifting me away and causing more damage to me in my inner world, where it's causing a lot of negative thoughts, anxiety, and contributing to maybe some feeling of depression. So I need to be able to look at that and be selective about what I'm putting into my mind. And I'm very selective, just like we know how to take care of our body, we also need to know how to take care of our mind and be able to put in the right kind of information. So be very conscious of that as we're going through life. The other is, oh, I hear an echo. The other is the what we're consuming in our day-to-day, our eating habits. Because if we are not able to have a healthy body, forget about self-transformation and inner work, because the pull of the body, those aches and pains, are going to be taking over, full center stage in our life. So being able to understand our outer body and have it function in the right way is very important, to be able to see, transformation in our lives and be able to work. And we're talking about transformation, really see the inner transformation happen in our lives. So being able to look at what habits I have and shift to those that allow me to not have so much attention and drainage on just trying to take care of the body. So maybe looking at our eating habits. And the other is looking at, shedding some of those worrying thoughts. And the practice of meditation is what really helps you restore some of that energy, because a lot of drain of energy happens with just worrying about the past, the future. There's so much that we can take in from this, the community, our country, the world, that we can just drown ourselves in sorrow. And so we have to be able to do this analysis for ourselves. And in Raj Yoga, we talk about the power to discern. So we have to be able to be like that stage of the caterpillar, where we have to give ourselves time to do this inner analysis. We have to be honest with ourselves and say, what is it that's preventing me from seeing change in my life? Am I just keeping myself busy unnecessarily? So our director of Brahma Kumaris, she made a statement once, which I never quite understood. She said, busyness is laziness. And so I was like, what does that mean? If you're busy, how are you lazy? And what she meant was, we're so busy doing outside things that we don't want to work on the inner self. We're too lazy to work on the inner self, which requires some effort, because we have to, go into that space and have those honest conversations, which can be difficult. And so we have to do that own examination. Am I keeping myself too busy with life that I don't want to look at my own self-transformation? And if we're not willing to invest in ourselves, then who's going to invest in you? So we have to be able to want to take this time to really understand, what do I need to shed and what do I need to consume? And maybe the analysis is also looking for outside help, because there might be a lot of baggage that we're carrying from our past that is not allowing me to experience peace and happiness in my present. And so the analogy that we can think about is, if you're driving your car, you have that rear view mirror. That rear view mirror is really small compared to the big, windscreen in front of you. And there's a reason for that. It's that our focus shouldn't be on that rear view mirror. It should be, in front of us. But if we are focused in the back and what's happened in our past, you're going to have accidents. And that's what's going to happen is you're going to have accidents in your present. So being able to resolve some of these, feelings of resentment that we're carrying, or guilt, that prevent, self-transformation, it has to be looked at. And we have many powers that we talk about in Raj Yoga. The power to discern is just one of them, but there are many powers that we teach that allow some of that unpacking to happen. And there are times when we maybe have to look at professionals. Like, I'm a big fan of therapy. Therapy could be something that will allow you to deal with some of that heaviness that someone might be carrying. So maybe the stage 2 analysis in understanding transformation is really looking at, maybe I need to talk to someone that can help me move forward. Otherwise, I'll remain stuck. And you don't want to remain stuck in life. If anything that we've learned from the past year, we have to, live our life to the fullest, because we never know what's going to happen at any time. So this is what's this second part that's helped me in my own process of transformation, is doing that self-analysis and making some difficult choices. I had to really make some choices to step away from certain groups. I had to, make some major changes to how I was eating. The digital obesity wasn't as big a problem for me, but so these are just some of the things that came to mind that I have used, and others have brought up, that prevent them from experiencing transformation in their life, is things that we hold on to that are just unhealthy for us. So I'll pause there and see if anyone has any questions on this analysis of the self, where we have to be able to have that honest conversation and see for ourselves what shifts need to happen, because nobody else knows what's happening in that world but us.
I have a question. You were mentioning about the body, the external world. If the health is not good, then we cannot deal with the internal changes, right? We're constantly battling with the body. But what if, I mean, it's not the diet, but I'm already involved in some deep sickness, like corona or like cancer, that it's happening in the body. This is my baby. My son's baby. So that's very difficult to deal with.
It is, and I think go ahead. Okay, yeah, I agree. I mean, those are diseases that don't have like an immediate resolution. And so I go back to being able to find the happiness, and being able to find that peace even in those situations. And that's where I think the practice of just starting to really even explore meditation allows us to be able to step back even from the body, because that's what meditation can do. You can be like almost like something called a detached observer. And so being able to allow yourself to even explore that. And I've seen people say that with this practice of meditation, they've had anxiety going to a dentist, but being able to use this meditation practice allows them to kind of detach themselves from the pain, and makes them able to go through that experience with some level of tolerance. So yeah, that is a difficult question, and but I think there's always an opportunity for some form of meditation to help with dealing with that sorrow, because you can be saying, why is this happening to me? And that's where the energy leaks can happen, is because you are questioning, why is this suffering something that I have to go through? So meditation also allows you to put some of those questions to bed. And we have this whole other practice of karma philosophy, which I'm not going to go into, but that's something else that can help you deal with, some of what you're going through. Great question. Anything else? So I'll do another short visualization here. So this you can do with your eyes closed, even though I said with this practice of meditation, Raj Yoga, we do with our eyes open. But here you can just close your eyes and do a little analysis of bringing a situation that you would like to transform in front of you. So bring forward, be something as big as quitting smoking, or dealing with a partner that snores. Maybe that's a big situation. I don't know, whatever it is. So bring that situation to your mind's eye, whatever you want to transform. And then, like a detached observer, like I was just mentioning, see yourself like a hologram looking at your own self. And as you see yourself, look at your expressions on your face. And now see yourself achieving success and victory over that particular situation. And see your facial expressions now. And see that success and victory. So visualization is a very important tool that can be used, and we use it always with this practice of meditation, is being able to visualize. And so being able to visualize your success ahead of time takes the fear, because sometimes we can be fearful of doing something because we self-sabotage ourselves with the fear that I can't do it. But when we visualize the success or the feeling and experience of having accomplished it, then it's then a matter of just implementing, your next steps. So when I was sharing this with the students, they're coming up to finals, they were like, so can I just visualize an A for each of my subjects? Is that what you're saying I can do? And I said, well, have you put the effort to get an A for each of your subjects? But what I was telling them was, see the and experience almost the victory at the end, or the feeling of accomplishment. And that takes some of the anxiety, as they're going through their test taking, it'll take some of the anxiety off, because you have, created that visual, that positive affirmation around that. And so it takes the edge off some of the feeling of, being able to, derail ourselves. So with hold on to that visual of success as we go through this next stage of the chrysalis. So in this third stage of transformation in this butterfly, it has the most significant transformation in this chrysalis form, where all the cells in the body become these imaginal cells and become part of this butterfly. It's a time of like intense metamorphosis. And that's when a lot of the patterns and the colors begin to form and emerge, is within this chrysalis. So just like that, we have to be able to create our own chrysalis as we're going through our transformation, because we have to be able to protect ourselves as we are going through this vulnerable stage of changing something that we have probably had for a long time. So in order to do that, you have to be able to go through these 4 steps that I'm going to lay out for you. Is take time for yourself. Take time to be able to do this. And, the expression of, busyness is laziness, be able to flip that around and say, I'm going to make myself a priority and give myself that self-induced timeout. And part of the protection also is maybe don't tell people that you're doing this transformation, because we live in a world where there's a lot of negativity, and social media, I think, creates a lot of jealousy. So being able to do this transformation maybe in internally, you don't have to announce it to the world, and that allows you to protect yourself in a way. And then set small goals. If you're someone is trying to get rid of anger, maybe you don't say, well, I don't want to be angry for the whole year, but you set smaller goals. Maybe I will try not to be angry for 2 hours, and then be able to congratulate yourself as you're accomplishing those small goals. Because when we set big things that we want to transform, they can be frustration. So know that you can set these small goals along the way and acknowledge that it takes time, especially for self-transformation. It's not something that everyone does, because it's that inner work, but acknowledge that it is that inner work, and it is a masterpiece that you're creating, because you're worth it. And at the end, the last one is to keep that aim in full view. So keep that feeling of accomplishment, that visualization that we just went through, that I have accomplished. Keep that with you, and that's what allows you to keep your enthusiasm up. It allows you to keep forward and keep going on this process of transformation. So for me personally, being able to really protect myself as I was going through this was very important, and not telling everyone, because they can be people that are trying to help you, but they land up being very negative and derailing you in the process. So that to me was very important, is to be able to just kind of make it at my own personal achievement. So creating your own chrysalis is very important, to be able to take this into action. So there's awareness, analysis, and action. And the final step here in this transformation that this butterfly goes through is, just seeing itself in its full beauty and its full capacity, and seeing the uniqueness of each one of them, right? Each one of these butterflies is so beautiful and so unique. And we have to also see ourselves that same way, is we have to awaken to this inner beauty that we all have. And I'll say awaken for all those that have been falling asleep through this presentation. Now is a good time to awaken. As my husband says, your voice is great for people who have severe insomnia. So he goes, so I'll take that as a compliment, that I have an ability to put people to sleep. But if this is a great time to really be awakened to your own being of who you are, and celebrate your new self, and operate from this new operating system, because there's lots of things that we come with preconceived notions about who we are. And this practice of meditation, getting to that root of being, of love, of peace, allows you to really see yourself differently, and not compare yourself to anyone. Because a lot of times we are raised with a lot of comparison to each other, and it's hard to be able to have that self-esteem and self-worth if we're being compared all the time. But when you are in your inner power that we talked about earlier as one of the qualities of the soul, you're able to appreciate yourself for who you are, and not compare yourself, and see each one of us as their own unique butterfly. But once we're awakened, it requires maintenance. You can't just let yourself go, because you have to check yourself for those bugs. I'm not talking about caterpillar bugs, but check yourself for things that, sneak in there and derail you. So you also always have to check yourself. And meditation, of course, I think is a great practice for us to be able to go inside, check ourselves for things that are bothering us. And we say it's something called check and change. So do it as soon as you see it, and don't let it become a prolonged habit. and positive thinking that comes from that foundation of, feeling that inner goodness that we all have. And the more we're able to do this process of transformation with the small things, then, it's not a new process anymore because we've already done it. And that's how we empower ourselves to be able to, do more and more of this. Like I was saying, with the 10 years I've been practicing, this meditation, there's been so much of transformation in my own self. And that comes from feeling confident that, I can do this repeated process again. And what that allows us to really have is bring those feelings of victory into our life, and feel that we are able to live life the way it should be. This it's a beautiful life, and sometimes we can lose that in taking in the sorrow of the world. So we have to know how to protect ourselves, and we can do it. I know if I can do it, I would say if I can do it, anyone can do it. And so understanding transformation for me has really been, the first step has been key in understanding who am I, and shifting that from a body conscious to soul conscious thinking, the ability to discern, really being honest with myself to see what is preventing me from going to the next step and living a life that I want to lead. And then that slow and steady wins the race, being able to take it, at my own pace without announcing to the world how I'm doing it. And at the end of the day, this is the goal that we all should have. We're all entitled. We talk about this generation that feels entitled to stuff, but I say we should be entitled to peace. We all should be entitled to have peace and happiness in our life. And it's something that can absolutely be a reality. So we have to have, I'll end with this, that inspiration for me, if you can find a person in your life that has been inspiring. For me, it's the head of the Brahma Kumari's organization. She left her body, last year, but this is her at 103, and this was in at the retreat center in New York. And 103 and still going strong. She really was a believer of being like that butterfly, going everywhere and spreading her, 3 beautiful and simple message, which was of truth and cleanliness, and so clean. Her heart had held nothing but goodness, and that simplicity. She had nothing on her. Her pockets, you say, was always empty, but she was so royal in the way she lived her life. And so I think having someone that you see as inspiration for transformation, I think allows us to keep that inner enthusiasm, and also makes us feel that, if they can do it, I can do it. So I've talked a lot. I'll pause there, and if you have any comments, any questions, by all means ask him. If I don't know the answer, I'll lob it over to Sister Lisa over there. Oh, I see a question about worrying. So, and it's for my sister. So any practical tips on worrying less? So for me, what's worked is being able to understand how we think. And I think being able to categorize your thoughts into different thoughts of positive thoughts, negative thoughts, and waste thoughts is been a good practice for me to be able to understand what's happening in my inner mind, because our inner mind is always buzzing with so much information that we're taking in every day. And being able to categorize your different thoughts, positive, negative, and the waste thoughts is the worrying thoughts. So knowing that these thoughts first are not good for me, I think is a first step in recognizing that, there is, that awareness that these worrying thoughts are there. And then having this practice of always emerging yourself that I'm a being of peace and I have this peace, and the worry is not something that I can control. And so what is it that I can control? Because the worrying is just going to aggravate my body and probably cause my inner immune system to go down. And so being able to see what is the cause of that worry, what's the root cause, is it worrying about the future and saying that that's just a waste thought, I can't control what's going to happen in the future, and bringing yourself back to being in the present. And that's what this practice of meditation allows us to do, is bring our mind to be present in the moment. And when we are able to do that, it allows us to have more control in our thinking. And I've seen for myself personally, especially with kids, there's so much to worry about. But with this practice, knowing that, I can control what's going to happen in their life, what I can control is just this present moment, allows me then to take that breath and be in the present, and start conditioning my mind to have more positive thinking. Because what I want to do is create these positive thoughts that they then overwhelm the worrying thoughts. So the more we create these positive thoughts, the more we flush out those worrying thoughts. So positive thinking, and the Brahma Kumaris does offer a lot of classes on positive thinking, and that's the biggest defense against the worrying thoughts. Hope that answered the question. How do we avoid negative thinking? And that's another thing, is, the negative thinking, same thing. If we're thinking negative about ourselves, negative about others, understanding what is it that's causing it. Is it that social media, which the students were talking about, is there's so much of influence from their intake of all that social media that's contributing to that negative thinking, that being able to just step back and seeing, if that helps you, and, experiment with different things that are happening in your life, and, be able to put diets on information consumption, or even, people, if the people around you are contributing to your negative thinking. So it's that analysis, right? Looking at that analysis of, what are those triggers? And the more you spend time with yourself, the more you'll be able to understand, what the triggers are that are causing those negative thoughts. So introspection is a very beautiful virtue to have. And it doesn't come easy, because growing up, we always, saw time out as being a punishment. Like, to be by yourself is a punishment. But here in this practice of meditation, to be, in your own mind, and, giving yourself that quiet time, is absolutely not a punishment. Thank you, Patricia.
I know you said already, but I'm talking about anxiety, lot of anxiety for any kind of, like housework or going somewhere. There's a lot of anxiety, or, so.
Yeah, we live in a world that's steeped with anxiety and stress. And
Yeah.
And so I think, when I talked about the chrysalis, being able to protect yourself, is very important. And we have been conditioned to say that anxiety is normal, to say that stress is normal.
Yes.
But this practice of Raja Yoga says, no, stress and anxiety and anger, all these things are things that we have acquired and we've taken as being normal. And so we have to really be able to say that that's not normal. And what's normal is feeling, peaceful and loveful. And that's what we aspire to in life. We want to be happy. We want to be, feeling peaceful. And so those are things that we want in life. We don't want to be angry. And so, we connect to something that is inherently within us, which is, peace and love and happiness. So being able to tap into that, allows us to then try and rewire some of that anxiety that we're feeling and picking up from those around us. So it is definitely, it feels like when you have anxiety that nothing can help you. but we have to be able to, say, this is my life, and is this how I want to live my life? And, look for tools that are there to potentially help you.
Yes, thank you.
So I would say, meditation. Sister Lisa, you
Yeah,
want to add anything to that?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to also add, what meditation does makes the mind and the intellect sharper to pay attention to what can cause anxiety too. And you become much more responsible about yourself and about your environment. For example, in my case, when I drink a little bit of coffee, I get anxiety. It just stirs things up in my stomach and it's in my vibration of my body. And also radiation, like when I'm in front of the computer. I got this device. This is like a electromagnetic reader. And I've been, recently I have been getting a lot of anxiety attacks and I couldn't understand why. And then somebody told me, do you have a lot of radiation in your environment? Why don't you check it with this device? And the laptop was not the issue, the phone was not the issue, but what was the issue was this space heater that I had right next to me. And it was to the max, it was red, like it was radiating so much of the electromagnetic signals that it was causing disturbance in the body. So we just need to pay attention a little bit. It's sometimes food, sometimes the drinks that we drink, the medications that we take, and the worries that we have. But meditation, what it does, it calms you down and it lets you see what could be the answer. And that answer comes to the front and then you deal with it. And if it doesn't work, then you try something else. But the point is, the more you meditate, the more tuned in you become.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Soni?
The question in the chat, what inspired you to, it's from a young soul, what inspired you to leave your engineering profession to pursue your spiritual journey? Oh, so I was, when I took a break, I didn't expect to leave my engineering profession. I was there for 17 years, but I decided to take a break. And what I noticed was that the boys, because we were both so busy, my husband was traveling, I was traveling with work, the boys loved the having mom fully present. They loved that they didn't have to go to extended day. And so when I saw that they were so happy, and I had just started this meditation practice, and what allowed me to make that step, which I couldn't have done without this practice, I now realize that, is my identity was wrapped around my title. I was a vice president at Fidelity. That was where my identity was wrapped for a long time. Was in my profession. When I would introduce myself, that's what I would start out with. But when I started this practice of meditation, it allowed me to say, well, I'm not that title. I'm much more than that, and so it didn't, so when I left my profession, I didn't feel like I gave up something at all. If anything, I felt like I gained, because I was in my own true identity of who I was, instead of the false identity of a label. And I think that's where a lot of people also get caught up, is they get attached to those titles that they have in their workplace, that when they lose their job, it destabilizes them. They don't know who they are anymore. And so this practice of meditation allows you to be comfortable with who you are, no matter what the situation was. But the answer to your question was, the boys loved having me at home, and it allowed me to, really develop my own practice and feel happy. I was more happy without a job and being the CEO of the kitchen. So that was the title I gave myself. I hope that answers your question. There's another question regarding the view of a mirror. You were saying looking at it all the time can cause an accident, but we need to look in at times. What does that imply? Yes, we absolutely need to look at it at times because we need to learn. We need to learn from what we have done in the past. We need to take the good things with us. You know, not all the stuff in our past is bad baggage. We've had lots of good memories. And so take those forward with you, but don't take the pain and the rejection and the feeling of being a victim, all those things that, you know, get us stuck. You know, leave that bag behind, but absolutely look in the rearview mirror and see the good things, but create your own, you know, good memories, and by being in the present. So that to me was, don't always stay focused in the past. That's what was the analogy. I hope that makes sense, LK. Another question, this is for you, Cicely. How would I know which electromagnetic is bothering us? Is there any device to check? Is that the device you were talking about?
I'll just text the information.
Okay, you can put that in the chat.
Yes.
Great question. I think there's one last question for beginners' tips on starting a meditation practice. So I think it's a little challenging to do it by yourself because your mind, you know, is so full of other things, like you know, someone's talking about anxiety and the worrying thoughts. To have, you know, going to a place like the center at now a lot of the classes are on Zoom, so everything is readily available. If anyone wants to start a meditation practice, just go to any of the Brahma Kumari's website, whichever one is closest to you, and take a beginner's course, you know, in meditation. So many are offered at, you know, different times, and even different time frames. So if you can do, you know, a full hour, which can be challenging for someone who's a beginner in meditation, you know, if they has 15 minutes meditation. So try that out, whatever fits your schedule. But I think it's difficult to do by yourself and easier to do in a group when you're starting out meditation. Anything else you want to add, Cecilisa, on what the center has to offer?
Well, we do have, you know, if you go to bklosangeles.org and you go into the calendar of events in Los Angeles, you can see the different events that are happening. And what you can do is just pick and choose which courses or classes or talks that you want to participate. And then you can, of course, go to the, sign up to receive regular information. And also, if you want, you can sign up for Thought for Today, which is in the Thought for Today section that you can sign up. Basically, that's it. You know, one thing that I like to maybe introduce to everybody is we're doing this wonderful like a 2.5 hour talk on 17th of April, and it's called Emotional Liberation. I heard it a few times, but one of the times I noticed that it was very applicable to especially young people, because being surrounded by young people myself, you know, and I hear their stories, notice that a lot of them are battling with hope, and also with careers, and what for, you know. So this is beautiful talk, and it's very experiential, and it touches on a lot of things that we become addicted to. So part of, like, it's a part of the addiction process. So definitely not only yourself, but invite your youth group to join, you know. And it's in the morning. It's from 10, I think 10 or 10:30 to 1 p.m. Pacific time, but that's why we did it in the morning. So our guest speaker, who is from Holland, can talk, but it can be awake, but also for East Coast to join us too.
There's one last question in the chat. When living with family, do you have any tips to carve out time for this journey while remaining attentive to family? So what I found when I started this practice that I had more time because I was decluttering a lot of the stuff that was taking up my time. And so I landed up having more time when I started this journey because, when I said that chrysalis doesn't mean that I was totally, isolating from everyone else. But what I was doing was giving myself back time that I'd given up to other things that didn't need to happen. So I felt like I had more time when I started this practice. Maybe that's not something people should be saying because people like to say I'm busy, but I'm not busy. And I'm okay with saying that because I simplified a lot in my life. Oh, thank you. So any other questions? Thank you so much for the comments. So, in closing, I'd say this practice is definitely one to experiment with. So give yourself, a chance to try something new, especially in times of COVID when we do have the time to try something different. And it is something that will give us resilience to, we are going to be facing so much more that's happening in the world right now, that I think this practice allows us to build that inner capacity to be able to deal and bounce back from whatever happens. So definitely I would say experiment with this practice of meditation. And I've personally seen tremendous benefits, not only for me, but in the lives of my family, especially my kids. They're so much more at peace with themselves, which is such, I think, the biggest gift that I feel like I could have given them as a parent. All right. I think there's meditation after this, Sister Lisa.
Yes, there is meditation from 6:30 to 7:30, which is for you, I guess it's bedtime, 9:30 onwards. But if you want, you have a few minutes, so maybe you can close it with a closing meditation.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you for making the time to be here with us. And I just enjoy and love the fact that, from all over the globe, we can come together and we can have common thoughts and common purpose, and hear words of wisdom from all ages and all professions and come to the same conclusion, that we need to work from within. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. My pleasure. So yes, I can, let me share my slide again and we can do a closing meditation. Oh, did someone want to say something?
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sister Soni, for the wonderful presentation. We are seeing in the chat box a message that's asked for a recording for this particular workshop. So the recording will be available on our YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in the chat box itself. The recording is usually available within 2 days. So once you go to the link to our YouTube channel, you should have that available within 2 days. So thank you, and Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. I'm going to play some music. Let me know if you can hear it. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right, let's sit back and relax. Turning your mind inwards again. This inner space is your sanctuary of peace. This is your private space where you can feel free, completely untethered. Very light, unattached and carefree. As I settle into my inner space, I let go of everything. I feel the energy of peace emerge all around me. I feel myself being blanketed by this energy of peace. I feel safe and protected. This is my natural nature, being of peace. I don't have to look for this peace outside. It's within me. I just have to remember. This is my truth. Let me make a conscious effort every day to emerge this inner truth of peace. I owe it to myself to be at peace. I owe it to myself to be happy. This is my life. Let me own it. And be at peace. Om Shanti.